Denise, you wanted to talk a little bit about 12-step programs, a topic I am very passionate about. What was your experience? What's on your mind?
Wow. Okay, so I guess I caught y'all at the right time. So, hi, I'm Denise, and yes, actually, I'm very much grateful for 12-step programs. I've been involved in 12-step programs for a couple of years now, and they really help. I mean, saved my life. So this is about my personal experience.
Yeah.
But going in, it wasn't the first time I had ever tried them, but I always ran from them. I mean, I went to them early. I needed to at the time, but I didn't understand. I always thought it was sort of a religious thing whenever I would try these meetings. Even the first time I went to one, I was 18. And I went to one, and I remember they were talking about religion. And I'm going to be honest with you, that's what I was running from since I was about 12 years old. Okay, I knew who I was when I was a kid, and so did my family. They saw it, right, when I was a kid. I never thought I was a bad person. I was a person raised in a church, but it just was going against everything I could understand. And then when I started to ask questions, it got violent, and I had to go. So, nevertheless, when I came back to 12-step programs this time, I really needed to get whatever it was they were doing. So I went in head first, and I'm going to tell you, the things I learned really helped me. But for me, the religious part wasn't sitting well with me. But I got lucky when I got in this particular time, and I met someone for the first time who was like, "Oh, you don't have to be a certain type of religious. You don't even have to believe what I believe. You just need to try to stop drinking." And figure out how you're going to do that on a daily basis. It was the first time somebody ever spoke to me in this manner. And boy, I took that and ran with it. And from there, I hear a lot of people saying, well, where are you going to get your morality from if you don't have religion? But what I got a chance to do when I was able to sober up was to learn some discipline that I didn't get to learn as a child because I was running from the church, and people trying to tell me I'm going straight to hell. And I got a chance to have some peace, learn some science, learn how to take care of myself, learn some, gain some self-awareness and some of the abilities to speak for myself. And I started to slowly question some of this stuff. And boy, oh boy, it became freeing for me. And I say the James Webb Telescope freed my Sundays up. And I'm not a religious person. I don't believe in God. And I still think that 12-step programs are great, but they led me to a different conclusion.
Well, it's interesting when you say about, how do you have morality when you don't believe in God? I'd always counter to a religious believer, is there anything in your holy scriptures that you think might be a little bit off, anything at all? And anyone who's honest will say, well, the whole slavery thing, that's a bit, the whole bashing children's heads against rocks. I'm not big on fan on that. It's like, how did you know that it was wrong if it's presented by a God as a godly action in the Bible? Where are you getting that knowledge from? And they'll either be honest and say, oh, I have an internal logic and I have an internal morality that's influenced by the world around me, or they go, Satan! I don't know.
I feel like if you're going to say that, I could just add that as a kid, when I'm sitting there in that pew saying to my mom or my grandmother, hey, that doesn't make sense to me, and they're hitting me or pinching me, telling me don't question. I felt like in the same manner that someone would say, well, I felt it or I've known it. I felt it the same way they felt that it was wrong. It didn't feel right to me that I wasn't allowed to ask questions about this, or that I felt I was a good person and a good kid. I didn't feel like I was going to these crazy places they were telling me about. So I could say the same, I guess.
Yeah, well, I'm myself am glad to hear that you found value in these programs. You know, at the top of the show, we talked a little bit about the notion of faith healing and placebos and all of those things. And I don't in the least bit want to say that a 12-step program is a scam or that it is just a placebo. It is a community of people using the best tools available to them to support one another towards meaningful change. And that's a beautiful thing. And we know from research, we know from countless case studies that that is not going to be a universal experience. And that's where my concern around 12-step programs really comes in. The reality is that 12-step programs, even if they nominally don't require a belief in a God figure or some of these things, there really is incredible amounts of pressure to lean in that direction. And especially knowing that these are largely peer-led groups without a whole lot of good oversight or good training in many, many, many circumstances, people are going to be pressured to take on some of these beliefs, and they're going to have negative outcomes. And that's just a thing that is true. And even if we decide to accept all of that, where I start to take umbrage, where I start to get really frustrated, is where our government's relationship with 12-step programs really exists. There are so many people who are court mandated to these types of programs. There are so many different financial relationships between like local and state governments around these types of programs. And a lot of that funding, a lot of that support, a lot of that like judicial overview could be going to programs that are much more evidence-based, could be going to creating research that doesn't rely on some of these like vague faith notions. If it's effective for even one person, then congratulations to that one person. But it is not effective for a great number of people. And we have good reason and evidence to believe that there are other things that could be much more effective. But we have this, forgive the kind of pun, almost religious belief that AA and programs like it are the only thing that can be useful. Even though we know that they can be harmful, even though we know that they aren't useful for everybody, we try so hard to put so many resources into them, denying other programs the opportunity. And that starts to really frustrate me. So I guess I just mean to say, Denise, I'm so glad that you had positive experiences, and I absolutely applaud that and do not wish on any level to take that away from you. But I do have a problem with the way these programs are often the only option, and certainly the only option that has such a complex relationship with our government, which is meant to be kept separate from situations of religious ideology. Does that at all line up with your experience? How does that strike you?
Yeah, so I'll just say quickly, I hear your point, and to that, I'll have to say this time, coming into these, I also was fortunate enough to be able to go into an IOP first, right? So my experience going into a 12-step program when I went back in was I could afford it. I'm glad it was there and it was free. Not everybody's going to have the experience I had. I had to look also for places that were accepting. It was during lockdown. A lot of times I would go into online meetings and be verbally assaulted for my color, my gender, whatever. And then even going into in-person meetings has been a challenge, and I've had to find places to protect my peace. And there can be, and for my own experience, I have experienced people who don't understand that I'm not going all the way down the road with you with certain books. Having said all that, I'm glad it's available for the people that can't afford other places. I wish and I hope that we could explore other options, because there are other things that do work as well. I was told, take what you need and leave the rest. I'm glad I had that option, right? I know other people don't. I hear you saying court mandated and things. But for me personally, all I know is I'm grateful that I was able to find my own peace and then find my way out of the thing that I think kept me kind of in that addiction for a long time. I think I'm going to burn in hell for loving who I love. And I got free of that. And that's the gift I got, including other things as well. And I thank y'all for chatting with me today.
No, congratulations on all of that. And man, I hate the thought that we would end this conversation with you thinking that I would encourage you to turn your joy into rage. I would just ask you to consider, what if those free programs that you had access to were who are oftentimes being funded by the government and some of these other types of things. If maybe there was a program that was being funded that could have also helped you, that would have been accessible to you, that didn't come bundled with the notion that you're going to burn in hell for being a bad person, that didn't come bundled with there's something wrong with who you love or some of these other things. I'm glad that you were able to take what you needed. I'm so glad that you got what you needed. And I hope that you will kind of join us in at least hoping that we can create a future where you don't have to play that game in the same way.
My only thing about these kinds of programs that have what I would call a central untruth to them, like the abrogation to a higher power that you can no more prove exists than not exist. My thought is the benefit of believing in this lie worth the lie? And what happens when, not if, but when the lie is revealed? What happens then? That's what my worry is. Does all the good work just come crumbling down?
Denise, any comment before we move on?
Oh, I'm sorry. I think I lost you for a minute, but no, yeah. So, that's why I stay still involved in this program. There are alternatives to strict religious parts of the program, which I often seek out. And, like I said, this is a worthwhile thing to actually put my time into. Now, that with a clear mind and head to help other people maybe get to a place where they're not feeling like they're forced to have to be involved in something that doesn't go along with, what would help them be healthy. I've seen people come into these spaces and be so afraid of having to take a pill that they've already swallowed, right? Having to sit through sermons and things that are traumatizing to them. And I've also seen people come at them for saying it. So I'm not saying these spaces are perfect. What I'm telling you is my experiences. Well, I was freed from religion through the ability to stay sober. And I found that in those programs. But I also found people that told me I didn't have to be religious to be in them.
Yeah, well, congratulations on your recovery and all of your growth here. I'm so glad that you got the support that you needed and that there were people in those communities that supported you while also encouraging you to pursue sort of your own understanding of cosmology, your own understanding of God and these things. And thank you for supporting others in their recovery and helping people who don't have a God belief to find that recovery. I really appreciate you giving us a call, and I'm so glad to hear that things are going so much better for you.
Thank you so much. Y'all take care, and thank you for having this show. It's really great that you're taking conversations from everywhere. Yeah, let's hope everybody can get to a place of peace. And I like what you said earlier about prioritizing your peace. I found a lot of help in just those words right there, prioritizing your peace. Thank y'all.
Yeah, so say we all. You have a great day.